Yes, so we were discussing DGFT. So DGFT is, it's a government body under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So it regulates physical movement of goods. So the recent example, which probably I could quote to you and you can probably relate to, is COVID-related export items. So till January, everything related to COVID was freely exportable, like your PPE kits, masks, N95 masks, surgical, gloves, etc. But slowly and surely, since the Indian on our own economy needed those items, our own people needed those items, so restrictions was placed on them. Certain items were prohibited to be exported, and certain items were put under restricted category. Another recent example which I just quoted to you before before there was this technical glitch is LCD TVs. Now on the Atmanirbhar theme, government has put restriction on certain items. LCD TVs which are freely importable now under restricted category. So basically, in nutshell, DGFT regulates physical movement of goods. DGFT is the body which decides whether you can particularly any you can import a particular item or you can freely export a particular item, or whether there are restrictions to be placed considering the need of our own economy. The next comes is Reserve Bank of India. So RBI is a central banker of our country. It regulates the foreign exchange transactions. So what happens once you send any goods abroad? So the idea is to ensure the money gets realized. Similarly, if you physically imported any particular item, the first and foremost responsibility of the RBI is to ensure the foreign exchange goes out of the country. So regulation of foreign exchange is the responsibility of Reserve Bank of India. The next comes is custom authorities or STPI or SEZs. So what happens every time you're doing any outward movement of goods, be it physical goods or software, you need to approach these custom authorities. Without custom clearances, these goods can neither be imported nor these can be exported. So basically speaking, in case you're doing any shipment, so you need to approach custom authorities and you'll have to file shipping bill, and then only the goods can be exported. Similarly, on the import side, unless and until a bill of entry is filed by the importer, goods cannot be released. In case of software, it could be STPI is the concerned authority, and Softex needs to be filed by the exporters. The next comes is International Chamber of Commerce. So basically, it's a body which regulates, it governs the various guidelines of business between various countries. Suppose you're sitting in India and you have to do a transaction with person sitting in say China or UK or US. So as a generic rule, whatever interpretation of a particular guideline that I have, the other corresponding person should be having the same interpretation of particular guidelines. So ICC governs and frames various rules of business. So they decide the rules of business so that both the parties, the importer and exporter, are on the same line. For example, UCPDC, that is Uniform Customs and Practices for Documentary Credit. So these particular rules were framed by ICC in 1933. That was the first version that was released. Now let's take another example. Suppose a particular invoice. Suppose you're transacting with a particular customer of yours and you approach an Indian bank. Now this Indian bank may ask you to physically sign and stamp this particular invoice, whereas a bank based out in UK or US may not be having this particular guideline. Now to bring both these people on the same platform, it is important that uniform rules are framed so that the interpretation is the same across the border. So what happens, for instance, in case of as per UCPDC, in case an LC has a requirement of an invoice, which it will have, it is neither required to be signed nor required to be dated. So this rule will be across the countries, be the importer or exporter based out in India or in UCP or in some other countries, say UK or US. Now we'll just briefly touch upon the various prerequisites for import-export business. Suppose you have just recently started an export-import business, you would be knowing the importance and requirement of IEC. So as I told you, DGFT is the concerned body which regulates physical movement of goods, and it is the governing body which is under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So DGFT is entrusted with the responsibility of issuance of importer and exporter code, and without which you cannot carry out any physical movement of physical transaction relating to goods or software. So goods and software IEC is absolutely mandatory, and without which the transactions cannot be initiated or started as an importer or exporter. The next, as I told you earlier, first, if you're indulging in any import or export transactions, you need to figure out whether your product is freely importable or exportable, and or whether if there are any restrictions placed by DGFT with respect to your products. So how you can do is you can visit either a DGFT website, that is dgft.gov.in, and figure out from your HS code, that is harmonized system code allocated to your product, to find out whether the product is freely exportable or importable. Similarly, there are other websites also, like if you have happen to be any associated with any trade body like FIO, etc. There is an app called FIO Niryat Mitra, so that can be used, and you can figure out whether your product is freely exportable or importable or not. If your product is freely exportable, you can go ahead and you export the goods. If those are restricted, then you have to approach DGFT for license. If those are prohibited, then sorry, you will not be able to export those particular goods. Now we'll just briefly touch upon the various documents which are involved in cross-border trade. First, we touch upon regulatory documents. Now there is something called foreign inward remittance statement or foreign inward remittance certificate. So now this is e-version which is available now. So what happens, every time you're getting any money credited in your account for exports, AD banks, that is the banks you deal with, they are required to report those transactions in a portal called EDBEMS. So what happens, the moment the money comes in, the first and foremost requirement by an exporter is foreign inward remittance certificate or foreign inward remittance advice. So what this carries is the various details of the remittance. That is the name of the remitter, amount that was remitted, the date of credit, and so on and so forth. So once that particular document is available with you, you need to approach your AD bank, and AD bank will create inward remittance message, will report that transaction in portal called EDBEMS. The next comes is shipping bill. As I told you earlier, it's a custom document issued by customs. So if you're doing any export transactions, as an exporter, you'll have to file shipping bill. And what is very important is, at the time of shipping bill, you need to be absolutely sure of the various benefits you are entitled to. Suppose you are entitled to MEIS, that is merchandise export scheme. So what happens, at the time of shipping bill itself, you need to clearly disclose it to the shipping authorities, the custom authorities, that you are entitled to MEIS scheme and you want to avail the benefit. In case you do not do that, you'll be struggling to get MEIS benefit post the transaction. Similarly, in case of import side, the bill of entry needs to be filed by the importer, and then only the goods can be released. As I briefly touched upon earlier, in case of restricted goods, import or export license will be applicable. The next comes are commercial documents. So those are very generic in nature, like invoice, purchase order, certificate of origin, analysis, packing list, and so on and so forth. The next comes transport documents. So in case you're doing shipment by sea, then bill of lading will be applicable. In case the shipment is by means of airway bill will be applicable. In case it's a local inland ship, so there will be lorry receipt of transport bill which will be applicable. Similarly, as you would know, as per our the current guidelines, exports can be done up to 5 lakh Indian rupees by means of courier as well. Earlier, this limit was only 25,000 rupees. Now this has been raised to 5 lakh rupees. So what can be done is, once you're doing any shipment by courier, as you would know, most of the people who are indulged in e-commerce, they use these courier shipping bills. So courier shipping bills are filed by the authorized couriers, which are located across various custom houses. So what they do is, once you're filing the shipping bill is actually filed by the authorized courier, but you need to be sure and you need to clearly communicate your authorized courier that you are entitled and you want to avail this MES and other government incentives. If you do not disclose it, then you'll not be able to get it. So now we'll just cover how this export bill regularization happens. So basically, as I told you, RBI is the governing body which needs to ensure, in case you've done any shipment, the money should be realized. Similarly, in case the money has been received by you, in case the advance payment has been received by you, RBI needs to ensure that goods are shipped outside the country. So I'll just briefly explain the process of export bill regularization. So basically, it's nothing. It's like a balance sheet only. The assets must match with the liabilities. So what happens in case you have received the funds as advance payment? Your goods should be shipped outside. And similarly, if you got the money, is the vice versa is also there. So what happens? Just take an example. Suppose you are an exporter and you get money in advance. So what will happen? There are a couple of ways in which this money can be received. One is a wire transfer. The other way it could be the use of debit card, credit card, or service providers, various OPGSPs, etc., through which the money can land in your account. So what happens post this transaction? So what you'll find is you'll find an account statement where you'll either find the money getting credited by means using the Nostro account of the bank, or it will come by means of RTGS or NEFT. If the money comes by means of Nostro account, that is a wire transfer route, or using the Nostro details of the bank which you are dealing with. So what happens in those cases? The inward remittance, the reporting is done by the bank instantly. So what happens in the other way? So other way, what happens once the money gets credited in your account by means of RTGS or NEFT? So you have to seek this advice called foreign inward remittance certificate, which I told you earlier, or foreign inward remittance statement. So once that is procured, the AD banks reports that those transactions to your banks, to the EDPMS portal. So what happens? Suppose the money comes in a Nostro account, the bank will call you up and ask you what is the purpose you want this particular money to be settled for. Now there are certain stipulated export purposes. We'll cover the export purposes in the subsequent slides. So what happens the moment the money comes in, banks approaches you and you need to provide a remittance disposal instructions. So disposal instructions, once you give it to the banker, you need to ensure those are correct export purpose codes, which we learn in the subsequent slides. So bank what will do? Bank will credit this money in your account. And the moment the money gets credited, bank updates a portal called EDPMS. Now the parallel process is the exporter makes a shipment. It could be by air, ship, courier, post, etc. Then the shipping bill has to be filed. It could be a normal cargo shipping bill, which I explained to you, or it could be a CSV file, which is filed by the authorized courier agencies located at various ports. Or it could be by means of post also. The exports can also be done by means of post. So similarly, the shipment entries are done in this portal by EDPMS. So what happens now? Your EDPMS carries the details of exports, which are entered by custom authorities, and these also carry the details of remittances, which are entered by AD banks. Now both these things should match. So once this is what you're supposed to do. You're only supposed to go to the bank and tell them against this remittance, this shipping has been done, and you need to provide the bank with a copy of invoice, shipping bill, and transport document. That could be airway bill, bill of lading, courier receipt, or postal receipt. So once these documents are submitted, the export bill gets regularized. Banks upload this particular EBRC on DGFT portal, and you can access this EBRC. So in nutshell, AD banks will be reporting remittances. Custom authorities will be reporting the shipments done by your side. You need to approach your bank and submit couple of documents, that is transport documents, airway bill, bill of lading, shipping bill, copy of the shipping bill along with the remittance details. So once these things are provided, the bills get regularized, and generally within 2 to 3 working days from the date of submission, the EBRC is available at the site, that is a DGFT site. So these are the various export purposes code which are utilized. The first and foremost being, in case you are receiving any payment in advance, that is P0103. In case your transaction pertains to software exports, in those cases it's P807. Then there are export of services also. So that is P1004 for legal. If it is commission, then it is 1002. If it is accounting, it's 1005. Then 1104 is used for entertainment services. And this is how it happens. So it is very important to give the correct purpose code to the AD banks. So what happens typically, in case your money is coming by means of Nostro route, AD banks will ask you to give the disposal instructions. So you need to code the correct purpose code so that the BRC gets regularized. you are able to get the BRC on time, and your export will get regularized. So suppose if you're given incorrect purpose code, for example, you got the money for exports, but however you got it settled under, say, consultancy, software consultancy. In those cases, you will not be able to get BRC from the banks, because the bank will ask you to get the purpose code changed. Then only the BRCs can be regularized and issued. As I told you, as of now, AD banks are only reporting transactions pertaining to exports in EDPMS. For remittances, suppose received in P0802, that is a software consultancy, the bank would not have reported this transaction in EDPMS. Hence, once you get this purpose code change, bank will have to compulsory report this particular transaction in EDPMS. Then only EBRC can be issued. So to get hassle-free BRCs, please ensure the correct purpose code is used at the time of settlement of remittance. Now we'll briefly touch upon the key regulatory guidelines, which exporters must be aware of. The first and foremost being export proceeds should be received within 9 months. So in case you've done the shipment, you should be able to realize the goods within 9 months time. So on account of COVID, this period has been extended to 15 months for all exports done till July 31st, 2020. Another important guideline is, in case you got the money in advance, so you need to ensure the export shipment happens within 1 year. Another extremely critical thing which the exporters must be aware of is caution listing of bills by RBI. So what happens in case you do not get the bills regularized? Within 2 years, what will happen is the RBI will put you under a category called caution listed exporters. And what would happen is, once you get caution listed, you will face export restrictions across banks. So what are these restrictions? These restrictions, like, you will not be able to do any export transaction unless you got money in advance or the transaction is backed by a letter of credit. So general cases where you're sending the goods first and receiving the money subsequently, those we will not be do across banks, not your AD bank, it's across banks. Another critical thing is, if you're generally, it's advisable that exporters route all your documents through your AD banks. So what happens in those cases is, the advisory is within 21 days of shipment, you should provide your AD bank with the concerned documents. Now we'll just come to the problems. So because as we told you, EBRC is a very, issuance of EBRC is a very simple process. Like, you just need to, give your AD bank the evidence of having done exports and evidence of having it realized. So how will you get this evidence? That is shipping bill, transport document, and invoice, along with the remittance details. So these 4 things you need to provide to the AD banks. So now we'll cover what are the various issues faced by the exporters, which probably we need to, which can be probably, minimized, or, which we can take care of in certain. We'll just learn about those things. The first and foremost is, as of now, the exporters face this issue because EBRC is generally a paper-intensive and time-consuming process. So what are the steps involved? First, as I told you, there could be 2 ways of getting the money. One is either you got the money in Nostro, another could be you would have got this money through RTGS or NEFT. In case you got this money through NEFT or RTGS, first and foremost, you need to have this FIRS, Foreign Inward Remittance Certificate or Remittance Statement, credit advice. So at times what happens, this is not readily available. So you need to approach your AD bank. AD bank in turn approaches the bank which converts this remittance. So first, once this remittance details are available from the remittance converting bank, then only the AD bank is able to generate inward remittance message or report the transaction in EDPMS. As I told you, remittances mandatorily need to be reported by AD banks in EDPMS. And for remittance, for AD banks to report the transactions, this credit advice is mandatory. So at times people struggle to get this advice. So it takes a lot of time. So certain banks, they have their own processes, procedures, and have charges also. Another important thing is, you may be having a large number of transactions. You may be having a large number of shipping bills. You could be doing thousands of hundreds of transactions in a particular month. So if the process at the bank is manual, then that case you have to manually submit those shipping bills, copies of invoice, copies of bill of lading, airway bill, or any other transport document, along with the details of the inward receipt by you. So at times, if everything is manual, this may be a paper intensive and time consuming process. Another issue faced by the exporters is high bill regularization charges. So you may be facing, the charges are too high. Suppose you're doing only a transaction, say $100 or $200, and you end up paying 500 to 1,000 rupees per bill. So which may be pinching you. So these are the few things which are faced by the exporters, especially where the volumes is high. So there are certain solutions to it. We'll just cover in subsequent slides. So what happens? So this is one of the unique features offered by ICICI Bank. In case you are an exporter, you can avail the facility of Trade Online. So Trade Online is our online portal where you're not required to submit any document at the bank end. So what will happen is the moment the shipment is done, these will start appearing in your EDPMS. The money gets realized, and you provide the physical credit advice to the bank, and the IRM is generated. All you need to do is you need to match the inward remittance with the shipment done by you. So once you are able to do the matching, so once you're able to provide the outward remittance details along with the concerned shipping bill, the bills can be regularized while sitting at your home, at your office. You're not required to submit any document at the bank end. Similarly, in case you are dealing with thousands of bills. Suppose you were a big time exporter into courier exports and doing e-commerce business, then you will be definitely generating large volumes of business. So what we have is, all you need to do is you need to provide us with an Excel sheet and containing the details of shipment done by you along with the inward remittance received by you, and just couple of documents, that is invoice and transfer documents. So once you are able to provide us these two basic things, you can do a bulk regularization of bills also online. So your thousands and hundreds of bills can be regularized in one go, and you'll be getting EBRCs within T+3 working days time. Another important thing which we have done is we have done a tie-up with Pick My Box and DHL. So what happens if you give us an authorization? So these details which I'm asking you to provide, that is the invoice details and copy of shipment or copy of your transport document, that is airway bill of lading. Even these details will be provided by the logistics partners DHL and Pick My Box to us. The remittance anyways will be getting hold of. You will be giving us credit advice, or it will come by means of no store route. So we'll be generating that IRM. So once these three things are available, the bills can be regularized, and where the minimal documents, absolutely nothing. In fact, only thing we'll be requiring is a credit advice in case the money gets routed through other bank. So this is how it happens. So now there is a unique feature offered by Pioneer also. So now to come, as I told you, in case of foreign inward remittance advice, where the money gets routed through various OPGSPs, ultimately the amount gets credited in a bank account. So what happens with Pioneer is, the best thing that the Pioneer is offering is, as I told you, in case of FIRS issuance, first you need to approach your payment gateway. Then payment gateway may ask you to approach the relevant bank. So bank will ask for certain charges. Then it's a 7 to 10 days process to get this credit advice. So what happens with Pioneer is, the moment the money gets credited, within T+1 days time, this FIRS gets automatically generated, and you'll be getting while sitting at home, while sitting in your office. You are not required to approach any AD banks or any other payment gateways. The FIRS automatically gets issued, and you get it's as convenient as possible. So this is a standard process, as I just told you. The money gets routed through a OPGSP platform. It gets credited to your account. Then you have to do a manual follow-up. You have to go to the bank, or you have to follow up with your OPGSP platform. And then there are various processes, like you have to go to online, pay certain fees, wait for certain 7 days, 5 days, 6 days. Then only you'll be able to get this advice. So in case of Pioneer, as I told you, it has a beautiful tie with ICICI Bank. This gets available on T+1 days, and it's an automated process. So it's as seamless as it seems. So as I just briefly told you about export bill regularization, is a beautiful feature offered by ICICI Bank. So all you need to do is, it's shipping bill details are anyways available with us. So once these details are available with us, or in case of courier shipping bills, you need to provide us either with copies of the shipping bill, or certain tie-ups are available. Like we have tie-up with Pick My Box, DHL, where these details will anyways be made available by these authorized couriers to us. And all you need to do is you need to provide us with the remittance details. Once these basic details are made available to us, we can get your bill regularized. You can give it to us offline in the branches. You can do the regularization online. So it's going to be very, very convenient for all of you. So just a brief on the postal and courier shipping bill regularization. So first and foremost is this inward remittance advice is required in case the money is through RTGS route. In case if it is Nostro, it automatically gets generated. So what will happen is once the bank is able to generate this inward remittance message in EDPMS, and you have given us an authorization to fetch shipping bill, invoice, and airway bill details from DHL or Pick My Box, these details will automatically be fetched. And once these basic details are available, all you need to give us the instruction which outward remittance belongs to which shipment. So once these basic details are given, the bills get regularized. This is as seamless as possible. So our trade online platform is not even confined to only exports. So there are a range of import and export services which we cater to. In case you want to make any import payment, like your direct import payment or advance payment, or in case you want to get the BOE regularized, the bill of entry regularized, you've done the shipment, you rather imported the goods, and you got this bill of entry, and those can be regularized using this platform. And in all our cases, be it on the export side or import side, there is nothing which is required from your side. So it's absolutely free. There are no charges to it, and there is no need to submit the documents at the branch end. So this is as seamless as convenient as possible. So that's it from my side, Prasanna. So we can take a couple of questions, and then if another thing which I like to tell you is, so we have at this particular booth available. So we are available throughout the day today. So in case you still have any queries, unaddressed queries which remain unaddressed, so please feel free to visit us. So we are available throughout the event. So then we'll answer those queries also. So yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Harjit. I think that was a very insightful and full of insights, the session you have conducted. We have a couple of questions, but I think we are short of time. We have already overshot our time. I'd like to take just one question from Mr. Sandeep Agarwal. He has asked that in case of Amazon exports, the invoice amount does not match with the remittance from Amazon. In this case, how do we, do the export bill realization?
So I'll answer the question. I got the question. So basically, there are two ways it can happen. It can exceed also, and it can be less also. So RBI is given permission for invoice reduction up to 25%. So what are basically AD bank will require couple of declaration from your side. So the declaration will state the invoice reduction doesn't exceed 25%. The commodity is not the one which is stipulated to any floor price stipulation. And another thing is the exporter should not be on caution list. Caution list, I already explained it to you. Floor price stipulation is one where the commodities, where the RBI stipulates these particular commodities, you cannot realize below than a particular amount. For example, in marbles, it is stipulated by regulatory authorities that you have to realize a particular amount. In those cases, invoice reduction is not permissible. So unless your product falls into those categories, invoice reduction can be done by giving a declaration, and also you'll be required to surrender the proportionate benefits which you would have availed of by means of MES, drawbacks, etc. So once this is given to your AD banks can handle these transactions up to 25% reduction. There is absolutely no problem at all.
Thank you, Mr. Harjit. So rest of the questions, we will send it to you and get those answered, and send it back to the attendee.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much. So as Mr. Harjit said, everyone, you can visit ICICI booth. There are 4 representatives from ICICI available for you to chat, connect. You can have a meeting with them and get your all queries answered. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Harjit.
Thanks, Prasanna. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Have
a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.